Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats, Brews, and Points of View podcast. I'm your host, Neil Richter, sitting with my partner across from me, E-Man Bates.
The PIP, that is me, and we are coming from the city for episode 138.
Yeah, baby. And to start that the podcast off today, that was The Waltz of a Ghetto Fly by Amp Fiddler.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. That's the reason that we started it up today, and the reason also that we paired the clip that we played up with that, because if Amp Fiddler artists like Amp Fiddler could only see stuff like that, it would be, I think it would really put a smile on his face from watching above right now. If you're not familiar with Amp Fiddler is a resident of Detroit who is a musician who's been making music for a long time and has been always kind of, a mentor to the youth of Detroit, and is credited as teaching Jay Dilla how to program the drum machine, the MPC. So that really changed the game for hip-hop as we know it. So we want to shout out to Amp Fiddler, make sure that he gets his respects. And then also another one that would have benefited because, it's crazy as I learn more and more about music history, how artists not getting paid a lot has just been a theme since the beginning of time. Another person that I want to say rest in peace to is legendary founder of the punk rock movement, Wayne Kramero from the MC5. So shout out to both of those gentlemen and rest in peace to them. I'm kind of, right now it's interesting because I'm learning a lot about Wayne because I've got his autobiography on Audible, and there's just so much interesting stuff in there about him. It was really interesting him talking about seeing the night that the riots happened in Detroit, and he actually called it a rebellion. He didn't call it riots. He thought that riots were more of the coded racist terminology that they were using to describe what happened. He called it more of a rebellion. And he said that it wasn't just, it didn't just happen randomly. There was this gang of 4 cops in Detroit that people literally looked at them like a gang. They terrorized the citizens of Detroit, specifically the black citizens of Detroit. And they were the ones that had caused the chaos in that blind pig that fateful night that the rebellion would pop off and, would lead to, I think they said 1,100 arrests, 2,700 burned buildings, I think 43 people dead, something like that. So
it's fucking nuts, man.
It's just so interesting. And
do you have the date on that by any chance?
It happened in '67. I think. Hold on,
that was Detroit riots, right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Let me see. I might have that actually because I've been writing down little notes here and there. Let's see.
I also do want to touch on that, like how huge that bill is for artists to finally get paid off of streams. Even
I want to talk about that for sure.
Like from the outside looking in, just for the casual listener, a penny per stream doesn't seem like a lot, but if you really add it up, for a long time, like Spotify and Apple Music, you get a fraction of a penny per stream, and it takes you. Unless you're one of the top dogs, you're not making really any money off of streaming. That's why I shout out to sites like Bandcamp, for instance, that does the Bandcamp Fridays and things like that. So, I mean, this is huge to have a livable wage for artists because, as she said, it's 800,000 streams equals to about $15 an hour.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with that clip that we just played, that was Congresswoman Rashida Talib, who represents Detroit for us here. And
Michigan.
E-Man just described, it's a new bill being introduced to try to get better pay or more equal pay for, I guess, the artists that are making the music, because it is highway robbery. And this is not a new theme. We're going to get into this more as we talk about,
talk about how just the music industry sucks and is done pretty much. The music industry is over.
It's crazy. And it's really funny to think too, when you listen to some of these, some of the most classic artists. And when you're listening to them, you think about them almost as a royalty figure. You listen to Diana Ross and the Supremes and all this shit. Mm-hmm. But as I'm learning about the history of Motown and all these things, they weren't making shit. Berry Gordy was paying, at the height of the Supremes' success, he was paying the Supremes $400 a week. $400.
I mean, Prince made no money off of Purple Rain whatsoever. No. And then he dropped, what album was it? That was purposely bad just so he can get out of his contract.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was.
The one where he had the "I'm a slave" like carved into his facial hair on his beard and stuff. Yeah.
No, I mean it's. I mean, the thing is, when people think about like when you get a record deal, it really is just a loan office. They front you the money for that you can't afford yourself, and you have to live off of that. That's what an advance is. It's like, okay, cool. That, you know, it pays for like your living arrangements. They might put you up in like a super dope house or something like that, or, you know, even like a expense budget to, you know, record somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like say like fucking Jamaica or something like that. But the thing is, once you turn in the product, no matter how it sounds sonically or whatever, it could be good, could be bad. If it doesn't make the money back, then yeah, you're fucked. You end up in that. And like sample clearances, like production, studio time, all that shit adds up. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't know. Like, the real work actually begins once you get the record deal. And that's why you have to actually come into these like label situations already ready to, you know, like ready have like a marketing plan in mind. You already have to have a following, and it's so much less of a gamble now for record labels because they go off of the numbers and like you know, streams and social media followings and all that stuff like that. Whereas like before, you know, pre-social media, pre-Spotify, all that, it was a gamble. We like, all right, cool, we can kind of like mold you into this image of what's hot right now and things like that, but that's not the case today. And then you look at like a site like TikTok, for instance, where nobody's really, and this is why I say the music industry is kind of dead in a way, and we'll touch on this more later, like, you know, later in the episode and things like that. But just kind of bringing about that. I mean, you have like these like 30-second, minute, whatever, like short clips and stuff like that. That's what people are recording for. There's really not much money in the music, in actually making music anymore. That's why I'm happy, you know, this Rashida Talib, like, you know, act that with musicians and stuff like that get a livable wage, because people are just making, you know, this clip up because you have to have like some kind of fucking influencer thing going on now for that. You can no longer, I mean, it's been like that for a long time, and I'm really just preaching to the choir here because I'm pretty sure a lot of people already know this. You can't just be a pure artist anymore. You have to have like so many different things going on to you to build the following up. So, yeah.
And the whole practice, even from the beginning of it, is all very manipulative in the first place, because you're taking in a lot of the cases, especially if you go back to the days of like Motown and stuff, you're taking these artists that come from nothing. You know, these people have no money whatsoever. So if you dangle even a little bit of money at it, like, unless you have the most supreme confidence in yourself to know your own self-worth and what you're capable of and what you could be worth, I mean, it's like a no-brainer. You're gonna sign the deal. You're gonna take the money because you're still worrying where your next meal is gonna come from. So the whole practice of it is all very manipulative, and it really is crazy how little artists get paid. And I wanted to read this article real quick since we're on it before we get into the beers, and then we'll go into that. But James Blake. If you're unfamiliar with the artist James Blake, he's worked with everybody, you know, in the industry. He's produced for Kanye, Beyonce, Jay-Z, a bunch of different people. But he put out this comment, and I wanted to read it off real quick, talking about TikTok and pay and all that. So it said, originally commenting on how he never made any money from TikTok from his original cover of Frank Ocean's Godspeed, Blake said, "It's worth noting this is just an example I used in a post talking about the wider effect of TikTok on music. Just seeing this in part makes it seem navel-gazing, but I'm speaking on a thing that is affecting artists all over the world. Something I keep seeing is if you're lucky enough to go viral, just use the exposure to generate income in some other way," he continued.
Big time.
"Musicians should be able to generate income via their music. Do you want good music, or do you want what you paid for?" He added, "If we want quality music, someone is going to have to pay for it. Streaming services don't pay properly. Labels want a bigger cut than ever. And to just sit around and wait for you to go viral on TikTok doesn't pay properly either. And touring is getting prohibitively expensive for most artists. The brainwashing has worked, and now people think that music is free." I think that's pretty much. Oh no. The chopped and screwed multiple versions thing isn't great, but the effect of TikTok/Reels on the core songwriting and arranging of music, the attention deficit of listeners and of us, the musicians, and the immediately available metrics for labels and musicians, the fact that we have to be great at social media but not really great at making music, the working of songs now meaning posting infinite videos of the same clip of the same song, the fact that fans only know the one moment of one song for the rest of the set when you're playing live. And he goes on to say, I really love making music. I will continue to use my social media, but only to connect with you guys. Music is my life's purpose, and I will not have mine destroyed by a bunch of labels and tech companies who don't even pay us and exploit us relentlessly. He said, remember my cover.
Fucking bullshit!
He said his cover of Godspeed that went viral on TikTok, neither him or Frank Ocean saw a penny for.
That tracks.
Yep. So that is, I mean, it's crazy.
I don't want to do this right now. I'm like, where did this start at? I guess in a way, what was like the defining moment where this all changed? But we'll get into that later.
We'll get into that. But let's get
toast
into
it
these
up.
drinks before we start it off. E-Man, what did you bring for yourself to drink today?
Yeah, man. So shout out to my homies over at Stax Garden, man. They're always hooking it up with the imports here. But I got the Sünner Kölsch, and I got a true Kölsch, not a Kölsch style, like straight from Cologne, Germany. It's a crispy, ready, delicious, easy to drink beer. I'm not even gonna hold you up. I cannot read the description because it's all in German. So, and I do not know how to read German. I can drink German, but I don't know how to read German. So yeah, shout out to them. 4.8% ABV, 19 IBUs. Nice crispy Kölsch going for it. So yeah, Neil, what you got over there?
I got from Armada Cannabis Company a cannabis apple cider infused beverage here that I'm pretty excited to try. Shout out to the weed drinks. I really enjoy these. These are tasty. So give this bad boy a try.
So funny story about that. So this was a re-release. So the original one that came out maybe like a little bit less than a year ago, and I actually have a thing from like pulled up from them. So the cans were exploding in the back rooms.
Oh, that's what the recall
That's
was.
what the recall was. Yeah, there's something with, I don't know if it was like the THC. Yeah, during the fermentation process, it just sits. I don't know if it was like, because I've had this issue too, just, like when I was working in beer and stuff like that, with like yeast and how it like just sits when it's warm. Mm-hmm. It'll, rise over time, and if it just more and more sits, it'll just fucking explode out of nowhere. I don't know if that's the situation there, because I don't think yeast is in cider like that, mm-hmm. But I think it was just like a bad reaction to how it works. But I'm looking at this article. This came out around like November of last year. Nearly 15,000 cans of the marijuana-infused cider drinks have been recalled. The Michigan reports have I can't pronounce that word. I'm gonna just be honest with you. But they have a tendency to explode. A single batch of our Armada Cannabis Company apple cider, 20 milligram THC, has been recalled because their products were not reliably produced, and they had reports of swelling and bursting. Okay, so anyway, they got their stuff together, and it's back in the market. I'm really happy about it. One of my boys over at Pleasant Trees tried to hook me up with the first batch, but the ones that were exploding, and they said they were amazing and things like that, and I never really got a chance to try it. So I jumped on it as soon as I saw it this time. So I'm like, I had mine already. I know it's great. Personally, Neil, what do you think?
I was just going to say, dude, this literally tastes just like apple cider you get from the cider mill. Nice. Like, this is good shit. Yeah, I'll read the little description they have on it for you here. It says, it's no secret that Michigan is knows a thing or two about apples. In the Mitten, we look forward to fall all year long. Sweeter weather, pumpkins, hay rides, and, of course, fresh cider. Armada Cannabis Company is Michigan to the core. When we decided to craft our infused cider, we knew it had to be made from fresh pressed apples. With 20 milligrams of nano-emulsified cannabis in every can, our cider is as smooth as your favorite flannel. Whether it's on the farm, at home, by a bonfire, we invite you to sit back, crack open a crisp Armada apple cider.
Give me a hell yeah!
Yeah, this is really, really good.
That's what's up, dude. Yeah, the one I had, it hits. It's
Definitely.
dangerous. It definitely hits. Yeah, for 20 milligrams per can, it'll do the job.
It definitely will. But anyways, let's get into it a little bit tonight.
Also, I apologize. I am not drinking out the glass. I'm just I was lazy, so I'm just drinking out the
there
bottle.
is one there if you want it.
It is. It's already open, dog. So, yeah. Cheers, y'all.
So let's get into it. We've kind of alluded a little bit what we're going to talk about tonight, but we wanted to talk, keep the theme kind of about crossing over tonight on this first episode. We actually did record this episode already, but we had a little bit of a glitch, so we're kind of re-recording it now. But actually, and when it's all said and done, I'm kind of glad because this gave us an opportunity to get this a little bit more organized and presented a little bit better for you, so it's just going to be better product for you anyhow. But yeah, so crossing over. We talked a little bit about what that means last week on the podcast, and it's never been more prevalent than right now, especially with Beyonce just crossing, well, kind of changing genre. She did the dance album with the first part of Renaissance, and now Act 2, she's going country music and just released this Texas Hold'em song, which blew up on the charts, and she's now the first black female artist to top the charts in country music.
Did they get that right? Like the actual categorizing? Because I think they had her in R&B for a hot minute.
No, yeah, they definitely because they submitted it because Beyonce's team submitted to all the country stations and all that shit for all that stuff. So yeah, they got it right. It's the number one. I think it was number one on just like the regular pop chart too. So it is pretty crazy. So that's kind of the theme we wanted to talk about. Crossing over. Basically described in the beginning of music when it was very segregated still, black audiences and white audiences. Crossing over was essentially a word described for a black artist crossing over to a white audience, being able to, going from just playing black audiences to more integrated stuff, which is something that a lot of these labels, that was their main goal and theme, and it's something I see so often in so many different interviews when I talk about like history of different genres and stuff like that.
A lot of time, even going to, this was before. Well, yeah, I guess Elvis would probably be the perfect example of that, where you had like somebody like a Sister Rosetta Thorpe, during the time, this is like, during segregation where you couldn't pay certain clubs because of what you look like and things like that. Mm-hmm. So you would have said, like label heads or whatever. In this case, I'm gonna say the Colonel because I think the Colonel was Elvis's manager.
Oh, okay.
He would sit into, you'd have like people like that, like sit and go into black clubs and things like that, and pretty much like take that format and give it to your artist to help them build them up. That way, it's more marketable and more palatable to whiter audiences.
Yeah.
Yep. So, well, not whiter audiences, white audiences, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting. Right now, you brought up Elvis. I'm right now currently listening to a book that's about the creation and history of Stax Records. And Stax Records started in the late 50s, early 60s in Memphis during very segregated times still. And it was interesting because Stax Record was an integrated company. Booker T and the MGs had black musicians and white musicians in that band.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Not that Booker T. But they had black and white musicians in their group, and they were the house band for Stax Records. But it was just interesting hearing them talk about, they would create all this amazing music that all these people were listening to, but then they couldn't go play the music out live in these concerts around their area because you couldn't play you couldn't play integrated bands in different clubs around there. So it's just really crazy to think about that aspect of making music in that time period, how difficult that would have been. And I know a lot of the Motown artists in that time didn't like touring the South because they had to deal with so much of the Jim Crow South going on at that time. So it's just a very interesting time.
I know when Sammy Davis was touring with the Rat Pack and stuff like that, like they wouldn't even let him stay at like the same hotels like Sinatra and them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Sinatra is actually he's actually one of the...
He was a fucking gangster.
He was one of the reasons that the hotels and casinos started getting integrated, because he told them... Because Quincy Jones was producing for Frank Sinatra at that time, and they said if these guys can't stay in the hotels with us, then you guys don't need us too. So they started letting them all stay there. So shout out Frank Sinatra, that's pretty tight. But anyways, yeah. So going into more of this stuff, it's funny because it can go both ways. So what I brought up Beyonce doing that and going over to country music, so that's obviously gonna get her a lot more white eyeballs on the music. Because country is in large part, got a very large white audience.
This is because of Post Malone. I want y'all to know that. This is exactly because you sent Post Malone to us to take over R&B. Now we're sending Lil Nas X and Beyonce at you. I'm kidding.
But it's always been there. It's funny because it's in different avenues and aspects. And currently, I wanted to bring this example up because one of his songs is currently blowing up on TikTok, and that's Bobby Caldwell. What You Won't Do for Love, I guess, was played in the background of a TikTok video that got people interested. They're like, what is this song? And I guess his song blew up on TikTok, and now people are trying to find Bobby Caldwell stuff. So that kind of stuff, we brought those examples up.
Fleetwood Mac is a perfect example of that, too.
Yeah. We brought those examples on the podcast, but an interesting area for that one is Bobby Caldwell is a white musician that made more black music, more black-leaning sounding music. And so they were trying to get him to have more of a black audience when he came out. So his first early album covers, they kind of made like a little bit racially ambiguous because they wouldn't show his actual face on the covers because they didn't want the audiences knowing that he was a white guy when he first came out.
Confession. I had no idea Bobby Caldwell was white.
Me neither.
I had no idea till literally you just
just
said
now?
That. Just now. No, just now. I'm like, wait a minute. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yep.
Since when? Since when? We talking like as the driven snow?
Mm-hmm.
Not like a Logic Jordan Lucas thing. Not biracial. No. White.
No. You want to see what Bobby Caldwell looks like?
No. No, I did not. Yes, I do want to see what it looks like, but no, I did not know that.
Bobby Caldwell.
Oh man, so many songs, bro. Lovely. No, that wasn't him. That wasn't him, right? Lovely Day. No, that was Roy.
That's Bobby Caldwell.
You look like Asher Roth.
But rest in peace to Bobby Caldwell. I thought that was a cool story. But man, it gets brought up so often in so many different examples, and that notion of trying to cross over, you'd think, I guess we're still in very racial times, but you would think that it would get easier and you wouldn't have to worry about that thing. But, I'm watching this Origins of Hip Hop thing on Stars the other day, and this episode was about Uncle Luke and Luther Campbell's Skywalker Records in the South. And that was his main goal. He was like, at the time, what New York and LA were doing was dope, but it was only black kids that were listening to rap music at that time. And he was like, my whole goal was I wanted everyone to be able to listen to this shit and enjoy it together. He was like, my whole thing was to put this dance element into it, to cross the music over, to get it seen by more white audiences, and so that people at my shows could be more integrated and dancing together and having a good time.
Fucking A.
I was like, that's crazy. Dude, Luke, man, shout out Luther Campbell, man. People don't really give him enough credit for how fucking hard he fought for freedom of speech in your music and what you were able to say in hip-hop records. Because if it wasn't for him, man, the Cardi B's of the world, the WAPs, those songs would not exist.
Fuck. I mean, even before that, you got like 2 Live Crew, you got NWA, you got what's it, Twisted Sister,
D. Snyder was a big help in that too.
The Tipper sticker, like Tipper Gore with the parental advisory sticker back in the day.
Yeah, so Luke Campbell was a big fighter for a free speech. So shout out Luke.
So the song I was thinking of, by the way, was "Open Your Eyes" by Bobby Caldwell, which is like the light sample from Common. I don't know why I said "Lovely Day." That's definitely Bill Withers.
That's Bill Withers. But anyways, so it's just interesting. The crossing over thing, it continues to happen, and it's gonna actually, that kind of is a good segue into something old, something new for this episode, because I want to talk about it a little bit more in my something old. And so I guess I will start it off with something old since it's right here top of mind. Going back to this Stax Records thing, I've been telling on my Instagram story, I did like a 3-part little video thing on Otis Redding and some facts and history on Otis Redding. And so basically what I told on the thing, just a quick little overview here, was that Otis Redding in 1962 showed up to Stax Records with another artist as his driver. He was just 20 years old at the time. And, they had a bad recording session with this artist. He was kind of a one-hit wonder, and it didn't really work out. He wasn't gelling with Booker T and the MGs, and they couldn't get a good session out of him. And I guess the whole time the driver had been bugging the producers like, yo, let me sing for you. I can sing. Well, that driver, like I just said, was Otis Redding, and he's 20 years old, and they cut These Arms of Mine that day there, and they release it, the next year, and Otis Redding goes on to be Stax Records bread and butter. He's their marquee artist, their main guy. You had him, Booker T and the MGs, and Isaac Hayes also was part of the MGs. So those guys were probably the biggest names on the label. But Otis Redding went crazy with it. And after that, he kept recording music. But in 1967, he really wanted to hit the road, and Booker T and the MGs were they were booked for studio sessions, so they couldn't go on the road with him. They only did one show with him, and that would be the one that I have for you today for my something old, and that would be Monterey Pop, 1967. You got Jimi Hendrix on one side of this, and you got Otis Redding on the other side of this. So Booker T and the MGs played with him there, but this was a monumental night for Otis Redding because this festival, Monterey Pop, was mostly psychedelic rock music, folk music, indie rock, shit like that. He was the only booked soul artist on the entire bill. And that night he went crazy. And he had, aside from Jimi Hendrix really elevating his career and status from his performance that night, Otis Redding did the same thing for himself and crossed himself over to a integrated audience that night because the audience was in large part white for this music festival. So that was the first time he got to play. Most of his concerts were in front of like majority black crowds up until that point. But he played that. And then Booker T and the MGs had to go back to the studio. But there was a young band called the Beverages that were recording that were just kind of starting out in the Stax Records arena. They were all high school kids, 16, 17 years old. So they had to like go on tour with Otis, but they would also have to like come back to do schooling, and they had to like keep flying there and back. It's actually the reason Otis Redding bought an airplane was to make touring on this schedule easier. But they, if you know anything about the history of Otis Redding, that plane would crash in 1967, and there was 2 surviving members of the Beverages, but everyone else in the plane died. And Otis Redding, he never even saw. They had recorded Dock of the Bay in 1967 right before that, but he never even saw the success of this because this didn't get released till after he passed away, which is fucking crazy to me because that song is still such a cultural, impactful piece of music. So it's just really crazy because I think, when you go back at that time, the product was the songs. We talk about streaming and how, everyone streams now. But they used to run these recording studios like a 9-to-5 factory. Like they came in, they would record all day long, and they would shop these different songs out to their artists and see what would move because that was the thing. So with some of these old artists, you find like they recorded so much music in such a little bit of time. Like Otis Redding already had his first album was in '64. I think he had 4 more albums before this one. 3 years later, it's just crazy. They just kept recording.
I feel like there was not as much public pressure around that time too. So I mean, the artist could just focus on the music and the product itself. And that's when you were saying like, the music was a product then. Absolutely, that's what it was because like that's the actual consumer is just cares about the music. Nobody really gave a fuck what goes on in your personal life at that particular time because, we didn't have access to that at that time. Well, I say we, like I was alive then, you weren't either.
Yeah.
But yeah, like nobody had access to like that much I guess, visibility to, a personal life of a person and stuff like that. And there's always like this mystery and mystique about artists. And, obviously people were doing mad drugs in like the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. But, it wasn't televised or streamed or anything like that. So, the artist can just focus on the product at hand. Now, you have to really be multifaceted. Going back to what you were saying about the James Blake quote thing, it was you have to really be focused on a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. You have to be an influencer. You have to be an artist. You have to be you have to be personable. You have to be funny. You have to do little cutesy shit sometimes, or you just have to keep it on brand to whatever, because it's about. It's the first rule of sales. You're not really selling a product. You're selling yourself to people. So
yep. And it's interesting. In the second episode that we're going to record tonight, we're going to talk heavily about albums versus singles, and kind of what I'm just talking about. The way that it was structured back then really plays a big part into why there's been so many different shifts of focus between selling albums and selling singles. I'm going to get into that a little bit more.
Attention span.
I'm going to get into that one for sure a little bit more on the second episode. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and some pretty cool stories about Otis Redding and stuff. So that was my something old. E-Man, what did you got for something old?
I'm running back. Game Theory, The Roots.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm running back. So, yeah, 7th studio album from The Roots. It was actually produced mostly using GarageBand, which I found out. Which
I didn't know that.
Tight. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I use to mix all these episodes in my music. So it's kind of funny.
Hell yeah.
Hey, shout out to GarageBand, Apple Gang. Hey. Yeah. So this album was one of their grittiest, more realist albums as far as content wise. It was kind of like a stripped down version of a Public Enemy track, I would say, in a way. It garnered a Grammy nomination, for Best Rap Album. I think that was in 2007 Grammys or something like that. And it's went to sell on 61,000 copies its first week. But I remember Here I Come, I believe, was one of the first singles off of that. I remember hearing that in a few movies and things back in the day, and I'm I didn't really know much about the Roots in 06 at that time, because this 06, what was I listening to? Probably G Unit or some shit. But
yep, for sure you were.
But it was just going back into their influence in it, because this was very heavily Jay Dilla influence as well.
Definitely.
We're coming off a Dilla month last month and things, so just to hear the influence and the sounds of what this album is, came to be years later. We're coming up on 20 years since its release, I want to say. Yeah, I had to do some quick math there. Coming up on 28 years, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's 18, man. Jesus. Sorry, guys. The coach is getting to me. But yeah, just coming off of that, man, it's definitely one of those albums that garnered a lot of attention later on me, and then I really didn't realize the actual impact that it had.
Yeah,
just the actual social themes and then what goes on into it. But yeah,
think about all the shit the Roots have accomplished since that album came out.
Yeah, they
became the Tonight Show band. They started their own music festival. Both Black Thought and Questlove are best-selling authors. Questlove is an Oscar-winning director.
Yes, he is.
So shout out to them. And speaking of that, E-Man and I forgot we mentioned this on the last one too, that we are re-recording. E-Man and I are going to be taking our talents out to, taking our talents, not really, just taking our bodies.
No, we're taking our talents out there. We hit that. We'll get on that podcast stage.
Yeah, we'll get on the podcast stage with One Up. But no, we're going to go out to Philly this summer in June.
I want to go with Gilly and Wallow.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're heading out to Philly for Roots Picnic, which the lineup this year it was one of the sickest lineups I've seen. It's perfect for our taste in music.
I think Tyla is not on that one, by the way, because I heard she had some kind of injury, so hopefully she heals up. But I know she's on that bill.
Yeah. I didn't know that. But I'm going to read the lineup for you real quick, because it is a really good one. And if you're thinking of going, it's not that expensive. It's only a couple $100 ticket for this 2-day festival in Philly. But you got Jill Scott, And you got Lil Wayne and the Roots celebrating New Orleans music with Trombone Shorty, PJ Morton, and more special guests.
I just want to see what Jill Scott does with that microphone. you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Yes. That's what I'm here for.
I cannot wait to see her perform live. Jilly from Philly is what's up.
Jilly from Philly. Let's go. Gunna, by the way, had probably one of the best hip hop albums of last year.
I didn't even listen to it, but everyone keeps telling me that, so I'm gonna have to check out Gunna's album.
This is fresh off of some
Snitching.
Is that confirmed?
I don't know.
Anyway, but no, the actual so separate the art from the artist on that. The actual quality of music on that album was really solid.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
And then you got one of my favorite rappers of all time, Nas. You got Victoria Monet, which I cannot wait to see her. I'm such a big fan of both of her Jaguar albums.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Baller Alert Go-Go Band Backyard Band with Scarface and Amiri. That's going to be fucking crazy.
Scarface coming off that fire-ass Tiny Desk,
Oh, man,
by the way.
that was so awesome.
Dude,
I love
seeing
seeing
on tour
older...
for that, and it's like I'm so excited to see like that because I know Bushwick Bill passed, but what's my other man from
Willie
Ghetto
D?
Boys? Yes,
Yeah. Willie D is still around, but yeah, Bushwick's gone. But Scarface, man, I didn't know he was out here playing guitar too. That fucking
that shit was
guitar
surprising
playing
me.
was
Yeah.
pretty sweet on there. But yeah, and then one of the ones I'm so freaking excited for, man. I am so excited. If you're unfamiliar with J Period, I really, really recommend going to follow him on Instagram. It's one of my favorite accounts to follow. He does, he's a hip hop DJ if you're unfamiliar, and he does a lot of these mixtapes where he'll do live mixtapes where he'll be DJing a set, but he'll feature other rappers coming on, and there'll be rappers rapping over other people's beats like a mixtape was. And on the one that he's doing live in Philly, it's him, Black Thought, Method Man, and Redman, because that's gonna be fucking crazy.
that's tight.
Air horns. What do we got?
Give me a hell yeah!
And then I'll run down the rest of it. Those were like the main headliners that were booked. You got Sexy Red, which is whatever. I'm not really excited to see that.
I actually genuinely hate that song. But
I hate it. I think she's an abomination of hip hop. But
I mean, do you? Everybody, you know what? That's fair for your opinion on that. There's a big world out there, and there's a lot of people that like
for
her.
sure.
That's why she's on that bill. So I get it.
I'm not really hating. I don't really spend any time thinking about Sexy Red.
There you
go. Babyface, which is crazy. I'm excited to see Babyface, one of the most classic, legendary songwriters.
Not
producers
Babyface
of all
Ray,
time.
right?
Not Babyface Ray.
Okay.
You got Wallow and Gilly doing their podcast game.
Are they doing podcasts or are they announcing people?
I think they're probably doing podcasts.
So last year when I was there, they announced like they were on DJ Drama set or something.
Oh, maybe they're doing that too. That'd be cool.
That would be sick on the podcast.
Gilly's from Philly, right?
Both of them are.
Are they? Oh, are they both from Philly? Yeah. Cool. Wale is performing. Big fan of Wale. This is one of the ones I'm most excited about. You got Robert Glasper and Yebba doing a set together. That's going to be fucking crazy. Yeah. Air horns on that one.
I like how you said Jilly from Philly and now Gilly from Philly, by the way. I'm not going to let you slide past that.
I did do that. And then you got Tyla, as E-Man just mentioned. You got Cameron, Killa Cam. I'm very, very excited to see Smino, because Smino is one of my favorite current artists now.
Love for Rent was such a good album.
Love for Rent is
I'm
so good.
Yeah. I'm happy to see him live.
Another one that I've been really excited to see, because she's been featured on hip hop songs like my whole life on the chorus, Marsha Ambrosius. She's been, killing the game for 20 plus years. Who else we got here? We got Funk Flex is doing a set.
Okay.
You got Leon Thomas, who E-Man's been talking about on this pod all year.
That's my boy. One of my favorite R&B albums of last year.
Hell yeah. You got Black Odyssey, which I'm very, very excited to see. A really cool hip-hop, R&B-ish type of band. You got the reason that I started podcasting, which we've talked about plenty on this one, Juan Ep's Life is going to be there. Shout out to Cypher Sounds and Peter Rosenberg. Then you got some cool DJ sets. You got Diamond Cuts. And then a special performance of A New Blue Sun by Andre 3000.
2 out of 3 are like my dream conversations are going to be there. And I'm happy about that. Mm-hmm. My dream conversation is I have a hip-hop and wrestling conversation with Peter Rosenberg, Wale, and Westside Gunn.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That's all. That's literally so I always had this like thing of like this is how I know I made it in life. That we get made fun of on South Park, and and that's actually it. That's those 2 things.
Yeah, I would love to get made fun of on South Park. That'd be so great. But anyways, yeah. So that's June 1st and June 2nd in Philadelphia. If anyone wants to meet us out there, that's where we'll be. I'm very, very excited. I haven't gone to a music festival because I usually go to one every year, and I mean, I did go to Movement last year, but I haven't traveled to a music festival in a minute. So
this is my second time attending Roots Picnic, and I'm gonna be it's a lot. It's not like because I did that and I did Electric Forest like a couple weeks after that, and that was a whole different vibe. But
yep,
yeah, like Roots Picnic is such a dope like festival. I didn't really do the podcast stage last year because it wasn't really too much I wanted to check out for that. But like the actual music, it was amazing. I got to see Sid live finally, which was dope.
Dude,
I got to see.
I heard the internet's back in the studio.
Yes, they are.
That's amazing.
Give me another high mind.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, that I got to see the state property reunion last year, which was amazing. Usher is probably one of my favorite performances I've seen probably in the past like 5 years. Although, coming off the Super Bowl, he just did that. It's a very like stripped down version of what I saw, so I was a little bit disappointed just because I know what an Usher set looks like, but it was super dope for what it was. Then they had the you had Erykah Badu come out, and then she brought Praz and Wyclef Jean out with her too. So dude, it was fucking sick, man. I'm excited about what this year's gonna be.
Yeah, I am too.
I hope there's gonna be some prizes and things like that.
Me too.
Did that tour get canceled, by the way?
Which tour?
The Fuji's tour.
I don't know. It's kind of. I feel like sometimes they say it's back on and then they say it's off. But I thought Praz was supposed to go to jail. I don't know. It might be.
Yeah, because I remember they were gonna tour after that. I don't think I've ever heard anything since the announcement of that. So,
I don't know.
She was also showing up on brand, but showing up super late for concerts and shit.
Definitely. I waited like 2 hours for her at Electric Forest the year that I saw her.
Dude, she was only 20 minutes late to Roots Picnic.
That's crazy. That's pretty good.
Fucking tight. I was like, oh, you must really respect the Roots. I love it.
They probably had to, because that one's like in the city, so they probably had to stick to a pretty strict time time constraint.
What does that mean to Erykah Badu, though? Oh, not Erykah Badu. I'm sorry. What does that mean to? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Shit. What? Lauryn Hill. What does that mean to Lauryn Hill? Why did I say Erykah Badu? Anyway, but I'm gonna edit that out.
But anyway, so yeah, that was our
damn this Kölsch.
That was our something olds, and then for something new, I can't remember what I had for last week picked out that I went with, but this week there was a couple of albums that came out, so I'm going to talk about one of them on this episode, and I'm going to save the Schoolboy Q for the next episode because I want to talk a little bit more about him when I have a little bit more time.
I went through a big Schoolboy Q wormhole, so yeah, that's gonna be a thing.
Yep, for sure. But the other new album that I listened to would be out of a band like they're kind of it came around the indie scene like the mid 2000s. They were kind of popping. There's a band called Starfucker.
Nice.
It's spelled STRFKR if you've never seen it, but they have an album out called Parallel Realms, and man, it just felt really good. I went for a run to it the other day, and it really brought me back to that mid 2000s indie scene that was really popular. But they didn't it didn't sound like derivative or boring or like it was like trying to do that. It had definitely new fresh ideas, and there was actually some really cool like rhythmic sections in some of the songs, like some really cool like instrumental breaks and shit. So shout out to Starfucker. You guys did great with this new Parallel Realms album. That would be my something new this week. E-Man, what about you?
Did we talk about the Boss album already? I got something if we did, but
no, that was I think the one that you did use for the episode that we are re-recording.
I got two I really want to talk about. So the Boss album I will talk about first, just because I spent a lot of time with that one. Album we only talk about shit when we're fucked up. You know, Boss obviously on the Dreamville umbrella. It's definitely like a deeper, like darker album than I'm used to him for, and that's probably what makes it good. You know, we talk about like why depressing music is always the best music, and it just seems like it's more personable. You know, like the Risk. I mean, he put out Risk with FKJ a while back, and that was, I guess, that was like the lead single kind of off of that.
This album is so strong.
How it starts off, man, is just really it's just a super like emotional album. Like, I think Ho Chi Minh's probably one of my favorite tracks off of it personally. It's a lot more personable. It's a lot more deeper than, like, I think the last one he put out was like Milky Way or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it's just like you can tell like he's lived some life, you know, has some ups and has some downs going through it. And I just love like the evolution of an artist, like when, you know, you can kind of put struggles into the music and really make it palatable and relatable for like a consumer. And it's one of those ones that's just super dope.
Yeah, I love it because Boz is talking some real shit on there. He's got family from Sudan, and so he's talking about, you know, the conflict in Sudan and everything that's going on over there. So it's very thematically deep, and I think that he did a really, really solid job. Boz is, which is one of my favorite. Boz is a great example. You know how we were talking about those artists? Was that last episode we were talking about? I can't remember what episode we were talking about. Artists that come out that don't sound like the region they're from.
Yep.
Boz does not sound like a New York rapper at all, bro.
Boz from New York?
Boz from New York.
Oh, I actually just found it out today. So today, guys, I found out, let's keep record. I found out Bobby Caldwell was white, and I found out Boz is not from New York today.
no, he is from New York.
He is from New York.
Yeah. Let me just make sure on this so I don't screw this up for you, because I don't want to get that wrong. But I'm pretty sure that he's from New York. Let's see. Actually, French born.
Oh.
What? Boz was born in Paris, France?
Oh, that's tight.
But yeah, he is. They
By
moved
way of New York.
Yeah, he was born in Paris, France in 1987. Yeah, he's my age. To Sudanese parents, and at the age of 8, his family moved to New York.
That's tight.
He's from Queens.
So he got that dual citizenship.
But
action.
he sounds like a West Coast artist to me.
It's like A$AP Rocky sounds like he's from the South.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And it's kind of like Drake sounds like whoever is popular at the time. He sounds like he's from there.
Dude, actually, I want to talk to you because I went through a wormhole. There's some artists that I found out. It's about your girl Doja Cat. Oh, we'll get into that next episode. When we get some time, but
for sure.
I found some shit this morning. I'm like, yo, that whole album. Never mind.
All right, to put a bow on this thing. Oh, wait. Yeah, you just said yours. Okay, you said yours. So to bring back the Beyonce thing, I have a prediction. And not that we're huge Beyonce people on this podcast, but something did pop into my head while I was at work this week thinking about this Texas Hold'em and crossover conversation and all this. So she announced originally that Renaissance is a 3-part project. It's going to be 3 different albums. The first one was dance themed. The second one is country themed. So the first one on the dance album, she had the cowboy hat on. So I think that was alluding to what the sound was going to be for the second project.
Yeah, foreshadow. Yeah.
And I think the third one is now going to be another genre, and I think that she's going to do rock and roll next. I think she's going to go Tina Turner status, and she's going to go hit the rock and roll status, and you'll see her dressed on the cover of the country album in some kind of rock garb to present the next one. And I think there's a deeper thing in behind this all. I think what she's really doing is highlighting the genres of music that were created by black people that got co-opted and taken over by whites, and the whites all think that they were started by them. Dance music, country music, rock and roll.
Do you think this have anything to do with the fact that Jay-Z was flat out saying that, yeah, combined we have the most Grammy Awards between her and Beyonce of all time, but
yes.
Beyonce's never won Album of the Year Grammy?
Yes.
You think that's something to do with it?
Yes, I think it's all themed. She was
Got
wearing
it.
she hadn't dropped the single or anything yet, but when they were at the Grammys and Jay gave that speech, but she had the cowboy hat on, so she was already dressing in the cowboy shit. So this is all very pre-thought out.
It's a
by
great
their
rollout.
team. It's a great rollout.
Great
Great rollout. And the song is a good fucking song. I can't even front. Texas Hold'em is solid.
Speaking of trilogies, you see the Weeknd's firing up for the last part.
Oh, is he really?
Yep.
Oh, that's tight. I'm really excited for that. Hopefully it's better than his fucking TV show because that shit sucked.
We don't talk about the Idol. We don't talk about the Idol.
I wonder if the Idol won any Razzies.
Probably.
It should have because there was some bad acting all over that show.
I almost want to look it up, but not. Fuck it. We got, what time is it? We got a little bit of time. We're under an hour. Why not?
But no, I really think that that's what she's doing here. I just have an idea because you saw immediately how some people were like already like mad that Beyonce was making. How dare she do this kind of music? When really, in all reality, country music was started by black people too.
So the Razzies only goes for movies, not television.
Oh, I didn't know.
However, there is a whole thing of people trying to get the Idol nominated for. There's like a petition for people trying to get the Idol nominated for some Razzies.
That is very funny. Well, anyways, let me pull this.
Although Homegirl, I did see this movie Bottoms that was on.
I heard about that.
Homegirl from the Idol was on there.
I actually like her. She's kind of funny. I forget her name. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
She is, yeah.
But yeah, she was. I got her on Instagram. Anyway, yeah, she is pretty funny. But no, that movie was pretty solid. Her and Ayo, I can never pronounce her last name, dog. Homegirl from the Bear.
Oh,
she also does the voice of Missy from Big Mouth.
I know her. That's the voice of Missy from Big Mouth.
So Jenny, you remember Jenny Slate was the original one, but she replaced Jenny Slate. Ayo and I can never.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I apologize, but anyway.
Well, anyways, we have another episode to get to, so we're gonna cut this one off here. But I've got a little song to take you out of here. I'm gonna play you a little clip of a song called "The American Ruse" by MC5. I just want to say again, rest in peace to Wayne Kramero and also Aunt Fiddler. This song, I really enjoy the lyrics of. It makes me. It's definitely how I feel a lot of the times. So, anyways, we'll catch you in a few minutes when we record again.
Maybe. Or next week.
Yeah, we'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
Here's The American Ruse by MC5. Peace.